For millennia, humanity endured, a flickering candle in a cosmic abyss, our reach shrinking, our knowledge fading. The age of strife, 5,000 years of darkness, of isolation, of terror. Warp storms raged, cutting off star systems, plunging entire worlds into savagery. Psychers, untrained and unprotected, became conduits for unimaginable horrors, tearing holes in reality and inviting demonic entities to feast upon the unwary. Xenos empires, predatory and unforgiving, carved out their own domains, seeing a weakened mankind as easy prey. Terra, once the cradle of our species, was a war-torn wasteland. Petty warlords squabbled over irradiated ruins, their squalid empires rising and falling in cycles of bloodshed. The dream of a unified humanity, of a galactic empire, seemed utterly lost. But from the ashes of old night, a light emerged, a being of unparalleled power, intellect, and will. The Emperor. His name, though now spoken with reverence and awe, once echoed with quiet determination. He saw not just the ruin, but the potential. He saw a fragmented species on the brink of extinction and envisioned something glorious. His vision was absolute, a unified humanity, not just surviving but dominating, a galactic imperium stretching across the stars, free from Xenos tyranny, free from the insidious corruption of chaos, built upon the bedrock of reason and unyielding strength. A golden age, far grander than any that had come before. But the scale of this ambition was staggering. The galaxy was vast, its threats innumerable, even for a being of the Emperor's magnitude. To reclaim every lost world, to conquer every hostile species, to shepherd humanity into this new dawn, was a task beyond the capacity of one. He needed champions. He needed extensions of his will, his intellect, his raw power. He needed sons. This, then, was the crucible in which the Primarch project was forged. A desperate, monumental undertaking, born of necessity and fueled by the dream of a galactic imperium. For to secure humanity's future, the Emperor would create beings of myth, demigods, designed to lead his armies and shape the destiny of an entire species. But what were these beings? What exactly did the Emperor envision when he began the Primarch project? They weren't simply brilliant generals, though they were undeniably that. They were something far more profound, far more dangerous. The Primarchs were designed to be demigods in human form, each a pinnacle of genetic engineering and psychic manipulation. They were vastly stronger, faster, and more resilient than any ordinary human or even any augmented space marine. But their physical prowess was merely the most obvious expression of their unique nature. What truly set them apart was their overwhelming force of personality. When a Primarch entered a room, all eyes were drawn to them. Humans, even seasoned space marines, could not help but be cowed by their majesty. It wasn't just their imposing physical presence. It was an innate aura of authority, intelligence, and destiny that bent the will of those around them. This charisma allowed them to forge unbreakable bonds of loyalty, inspiring entire populations to follow them into the most impossible crusades. Their intellects were almost unimaginable. They could master complex scientific principles in days, devise intricate logistical networks spanning star systems, or perfectly recall vast libraries of historical data. Each possessed a genius tailored to their intended role, whether it was the strategic brilliance to outmaneuver entire alien fleets, the administrative foresight to rebuild shattered civilizations, or the philosophical depth to craft new laws and cultures. They were meant to be the living embodiment of humanity's potential, perfected and amplified. Imbued with fragments of the Emperor's own incredible psychic might, and crafted from his very own gene stock, they were connected to him in a way no other beings could be. They were his sons, designed to inherit a galaxy, to guide humanity's destiny. Yet, within their seemingly perfect design lay the seeds of their own complex, often tragic, individuality. The very qualities that made them supreme leaders would, in time, become the source of their greatest triumphs and their most devastating failures. But how were these demigods created? It was no mere act of procreation which brought such legends to life. The creation of the Primarchs was an undertaking of unimaginable scale, demanding resources and knowledge that bordered on the divine. It was the Emperor's most guarded project, conducted in the deepest, most secure vaults beneath the fledgling Imperial Palace on Terra. This was no ordinary scientific endeavor. It was the ultimate fusion of nascent Imperial science and arcane lore. At the heart of this colossal effort was the Emperor himself. He was the primary architect, the genetic master, and the ultimate source of the raw material from which his sons were forged. His own unique physiology and unparalleled understanding of warp science and biology were the foundation. But even the Emperor did not work entirely alone. He leveraged the intellects of the greatest geneticists and bioalchemists of old Earth. Among the most prominent figures was Amar Astarte, who served as the biotechnical division director and played an instrumental role in the project. So significant was her contribution that the very name Astartes, which refers to the Space Marines, is believed to be derived from her name. Alongside the Emperor and Astarte, the Perpetual Erda also contributed her genetic material, combining it with the Emperor's to facilitate the Primarch's incubation. Yet, the path to creating demigods was fraught with peril, and the Emperor faced roadblocks that necessitated drastic measures. To imbue his sons with unparalleled strength, resilience, and their profound psychic resonance, it's widely speculated the Emperor delved into forbidden knowledge and made what some describe as a bargain with entities of the warp. Lore suggests he journeyed to the chaotic world of Moloch, entering a warp portal and returning with something that allowed him to complete the Primarch project. What exactly transpired and what was the true cost remains a subject of intense debate and fearful whispers. Was it a direct deal with the Chaos Gods themselves, or did he merely steal their power or knowledge? The exact terms, if any, are unclear, but it is known that the Chaos Gods were angered by his actions, perceiving a broken agreement or a grand theft. From this point on, the Emperor was named Anathema by these entities, and the clock was set to the grand tragedy which would set the galaxy towards its ruin. The very existence of the Primarchs, flawless in their design, yet born from such shadowy origins, holds a profound irony. They were built to secure humanity's future, but the means of their creation and the desperate measures taken may have planted the seeds of humanity's greatest tragedy. For now, we must speak of the scattering. The Primarchs were nearly complete, their perfection a testament to the Emperor's genius and the desperate measures he undertook. Housed within their stasis coffins, deep in the heavily guarded laboratories beneath Terra, they represented humanity's golden future. But the very power and ambition they embodied drew the attention of forces far older and more malevolent than any Xeno's predation. The ruinous powers of the warp had been watching. Whether due to a broken pact on behalf of the Emperor, or the inherent threat posed by his grand vision and the part these sons would play. They viewed the nascent demigods as a threat to their own dominion, a direct threat to the spiritual corruption and endless war they craved. They feared the unified imperium the Primarchs were destined to forge. In a cataclysmic act of spite and immense power, the Chaos Gods intervened, breaching the Emperor's formidable defenses. And, to the Emperor's horror, a pivotal figure from the project itself played a crucial role in its downfall. Erda, the Perpetual who contributed her genetic material to the Primarch's creation and had grown to view them as her own sons, claims she orchestrated the final breach. Horrified by the Emperor's ultimate designs for the Primarchs to be mere tools of conquest in an eternal war, she chose to act. Believing she was freeing them from a fate worse than death, she opened a warp vortex, dismantling the protective Geller fields around the Primarch's incubation chambers. This act of defiance by Erda, whether an independent decision or perhaps subtly manipulated by the Chaos Gods themselves, allowed the ruinous powers to seize the opportunity. The 20 nascent Primarchs, still within their stasis coffins, were violently ripped from Terra. Catapulted across the galaxy by rogue warp currents, they were scattered like seeds in a storm. Each one landed on a different world, far from the Emperor's reach, their destinies irrevocably altered before they had even drawn a breath outside their gestation chambers. Amara Stati, the brilliant geneticist, witnessed this catastrophic event. Her hopes for the perfection of the Astartes shattered, a despair that would later lead to her own tragic defiance, though that is a tale for another day. This event, known forever as the Scattering, was a cruel twist of fate, the ultimate disruption of the Emperor's grand plan. His greatest creations, meant to be his staunchest allies from birth, were now lost to the vast, treacherous galaxy, their paths forever shaped by their unexpected brutal arrivals. The scattering of the Primarchs was a wound that cut deep into the heart of the nascent Imperium. The Emperor's grand strategy, meticulously planned and painstakingly executed, was shattered. His sons, meant to be the unwavering pillars of his crusade, were gone, lost to the unfathomable depths of the warp. This catastrophic event forced the Emperor to radically alter his immediate plans. Originally, the Primarchs were intended to emerge and immediately take command of their respective legions. These legions, formed from their own unique gene seed, were always meant to be reflections of their Primarchs' innate qualities and fighting styles. Without their genetic fathers, many legions struggled not only to forge their own path, but with genetic stability. Space Marines are inherently infertile, instead reproducing in a way via the gene seed, an organ involved in their creation. This gene seed, a complex and often volatile biological blueprint, sometimes manifested unstable traits without the direct guiding presence of their Primarch. This led to genetic anomalies, unpredictable behaviors, and even outright physical mutations in some of the early Space Marines, forcing the Emperor to make difficult decisions regarding their deployment and even their continued existence. This brought many of the fledgling legions, such as the Thousand Sons and Emperor's Children, though they did not yet bear these titles, to the brink of extinction. The Emperor, ever the pragmatist, could not allow his great crusade to falter. With his beloved sons missing, he was compelled to take on a far more direct and active role than he had ever intended. He became the undisputed warlord of humanity, leading his legions personally from the front lines, directing campaigns on a galactic scale, and battling threats that would have overwhelmed lesser beings. He scoured the stars, not just for conquest, but for any sign, any whisper, of his lost sons. The Great Crusade continued, but it was a different crusade. It was a mission of recovery as much as conquest, driven by the Emperor's unwavering hope that his sons would eventually be found, brought back into the fold, and finally lead humanity into the glorious future he had envisioned. The galaxy held countless dangers, and each world held the potential for a lost Primarch, raised in isolation and shaped by alien stars. And so, the stage was set for one of the most epic and tragic sagas in galactic history. The Primarchs, demigods forged in the crucible of ambition and desperation, scattered across a hostile galaxy, each of them, shaped by the harsh realities of their individual foster worlds, would grow into a unique leader, a living legend, and ultimately, a reflection of both humanity's greatest potential and its darkest flaws. Some would be found swiftly, embracing their father's vision and leading their legions to glorious victories across the stars. Others would endure trials unimaginable, their very natures twisted by the environments that raised them. Each Primarch's reunion with the Emperor was a momentous occasion, a pivotal chapter in the unfolding Great Crusade, and one I assure you we will cover in great detail in future entries. To truly understand the Warhammer 40,000 universe, you must understand its sons. Their legends, their triumphs, and their ultimate fall are too complex, too interwoven with the fabric of this grim dark future, to be contained within a single video. In future entries, we will delve into the individual sagas of each of the Primarchs, exploring their unique origins, their homeworlds, the cultures of their legions, and the indelible marks they left upon the Imperium of Man. Until then, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with your fellow guardsmen. The Emperor protects.